General Motors has been making waves in the luxury vehicle market this past week, unveiling two new lavish offerings under their renowned Cadillac brand. Known for its high-end luxury appeal, Cadillac has long been a symbol of sophistication and elegance. However, as GM tries to position itself as a strong contender in the electric vehicle market, it appears that they're not only putting themselves squarely in Tesla's crosshairs, but also setting themselves up to have to navigate against traditional market forces. While GM has introduced the pricing for these new luxury vehicles, it's evident that these exorbitant price tags may put them out of reach for many potential buyers, revealing another challenge the company faces as they attempt to scale up their EV production capabilities. This evolving approach not only raises questions about General Motors' competitive stance, but also presents a unique opportunity for Tesla to potentially gain an upper hand in this high-stakes luxury EV competition. And before we continue, stop using Yahoo Finance, stop using Google Finance, and have a look at our website, themarketisopen.com, where we have instant stock quotes and a brand new set of quarterly financial data going back up to 15 years on over 9,000 stocks, and it's all freely available. General Motors formally unveiled two new electric vehicles this week, certainly in line with the 30-some EV models that CEO Mary Barra has intended to launch by the year 2025. The first was the Cadillac Celestiq, an ultra-luxury sedan that will be hand-built at GM's Michigan Technical Center, and starting at a whopping $340,000. GM says that only 6 vehicles will be built at a time, and no two will be alike, with personalization being a key focus of this car. Some analysts estimate that the car will have a production run of just 500 units. It's set to have a 111 kilowatt-hour battery pack with a range of just 300 miles. That's 33 miles less than Tesla's long-range Model 3, which is 7 times cheaper. However, General Motors is adopting a unique strategy with the customization of the Cadillac Celestiq, whose costs, of course, will be passed on to their customers. But GM calls this a thoughtful approach to electrification. But what is their thought process here exactly? They're aiming to position Cadillac as a high-end brand, potentially competing with sports car-level contenders like the Porsche Taycan in terms of price, or a future Tesla Roadster, but sports cars have a slightly different appeal than elongated sedans. The Celestiq's specs actually aren't very good, so a Tesla Model S Plaid at less than a third the price would outperform the vehicle in every way, including range, 0 to 60 acceleration time, and the customer experience brought about by software. Interestingly, GM's approach includes a return to a more handmade process, where they're adding unique trims and cloths or materials to the vehicle to try and justify the excessive price. Although this may come to bite them back later, since the vehicle seems reminiscent of the original Tesla Roadster, which had a slew of its own problems. It made sense at the time for Tesla to make a handcrafted vehicle since they were a startup and needed the funds to invest in more affordable vehicles, which was in Elon Musk's master plan right off the bat. And so Roadster was a stepping stone to unlock Elon Musk's true plans for electric vehicles. On the contrary, the Cadillac Celestiq seems more like a side project for General Motors that doesn't help with scalability, and it's questionable as to whether or not it aligns with GM's broader electrification goals. Moreover, the inclusion of a large, wide screen on the dashboard, a feature that echoes the now-defunct Byton or the Mercedes EQS, adds a futuristic and aesthetically pleasing element to the vehicle. However, the timing, so to speak, of such a feature could be a concern. While Cadillac is definitely passing on the extra cost of this feature to customers, the real challenge might lie in GM's software. Currently, GM hasn't perfected the software and user experience even on regular-sized screens. Introducing a full-size dashboard screen has the potential to create complexity, distractions, and ultimately overwhelm the end users. It also wouldn't scale to their lower cost vehicles that don't support these large expensive displays, so they'd be duplicating their software efforts, which are already extremely limited. The Celestiq is also a new type of vehicle for General Motors, having them venture a bit into uncharted territory, especially since EVs in general are already a departure from GM's ICE vehicle bread and butter. The handcrafted aspect could become a nightmare for the company if issues arise, since GM states that every one of these cars is unique, and therefore could present hurdles in debugging issues and getting to the bottom of root causes. That said, we can see where GM is coming from, in that they intend for this flagship car to exude an aura of sophistication and luxury, representing the essence of the Cadillac brand. But perhaps selling a small number of vehicles at extremely high prices is a distraction, sidestepping the core issues related to the company's EV production problems. Now, GM's more mainstream offering is a bargain compared to the Celestiq. They announced the pricing of the Cadillac Escalade IQ, which starts at a staggering $130,000. This is a full-sized SUV that happens to be almost as long as a Ford F-150. Interestingly, Tesla recently revealed that the Cybertruck, originally designed to match F-150 specifications, has been adjusted to fit within standard garages. While the Escalade IQ might also fit with minimal clearance, SUV owners typically don't anticipate parking their vehicles outdoors like pickup truck owners. This aspect could catch unsuspecting buyers off guard if the vehicle dimensions don't align with their expectations. And the Cadillac Escalade IQ is indeed massive. It boasts an immense 200 kilowatt-hour battery pack. That's double the size of Tesla's Model X's in order to achieve just 30% more range at 450 miles. Note that the Hummer EV has only a slightly larger pack than this at 212 kilowatt-hours. It's also noteworthy that all of GM's upcoming vehicles are slated to be built on the relatively new Ultium battery platform, which is still currently in its ramp-up phase. Despite this, GM anticipates scaling up production of these high-end cars featuring large battery packs, although potential challenges similar to those previously encountered by GM could arise, which is demonstrated by their extremely low Hummer EV production. The batteries must be shared amongst each of these vehicle models, meaning there may only be so much to go around. Furthermore, the expected release of this vehicle in summer of 2024 provides ample time for Tesla to consider producing a Model S or Model X with even greater range, assuming they see a need to do so, given that Tesla doesn't face significant battery constraints. The other thing is that Cadillac actually sells hundreds of thousands of vehicles each year, and GM is aiming to begin replacing its combustion engine Cadillac vehicles, specifically the Escalade, over the coming years. Reuters reports that the current Escalade will be phased out by 2027, and it starts at just $80,000, much cheaper than the IQ. And besides the Escalade IQ and the Celestiq, also ending in the letters IQ, the Cadillac Lyriq is also being produced in low volumes today. But it doesn't take a high IQ to realize that GM's plans may be foiled by their own ultra-high prices, coupled with mega battery packs which will hinder production. This is General Motors we're talking about. They're supposed to be selling on the order of 7 million cars per year. And so introducing an ultra high-end vehicle, albeit a Cadillac, the most expensive one ever, in the $340,000 range, or even one starting at $130,000, really limits their clientele, even if it may be closer to profitability with high prices and extremely low volumes. This is a time when the company may need to be mindful of protecting their current market share. These vehicles are the ones they should have started with years ago instead of the Chevy Bolt. They're basically doing Elon Musk's master plan, but in reverse, coming out with a cheaper vehicle first, the Bolt, and then making progressively more and more expensive cars. This is very strange. Like, are they trying to become Ferrari, which sells a small number of cars, but at extremely high prices and profit margins? It's not a bad business model, It simply deviates from what General Motors is geared to do, given their massive reach, supply chain, workers, and manufacturing facilities. They sort of don't seem to understand what segment of the market they need to be in at this time, and may not be using their resources efficiently. There's a reason why Tesla keeps delaying the new Roadster, a vehicle which Elon Musk refers to as dessert, and is surprisingly also half the price of the Cadillac Celestiq, although the two offerings are slightly different despite being both high-end. Coming out with more vehicle models to try and satisfy every segment of the market typically doesn't work in the early innings of a new company, which GM essentially is, as an up-and-coming player in the EV space. They'd be focusing their efforts on these high-priced, extremely low-volume cars to drive the rest of their business. It took Tesla years, about a decade, to go from a sports car to a slightly higher volume car and then to a mass-market car, investing the proceeds along the way, but also focusing on basically one car at a time. That balance is fairly important, as we've seen it before with the iPhone, where only when Apple grew to be much larger in terms of cash and employee count were they able to begin making various models of their phones, since it requires a lot of energy and overhead to manage different variants and different model years even of the same device. And here we have the perfect counterexample of GM producing the Celestiq, one of 30 new models they plan to launch over the coming years, but making every Celestiq unique. This is also not really a case of Microsoft's Steve Ballmer laughing at the overpriced iPhone before it came out. Even a $1,000 phone is quite affordable, but a $340,000 car has very few potential buyers. And the Escalade IQ is selling right into the Tesla Model X, which has also had low volume for a Tesla, not more than roughly 50,000 units per year at its peak, and the Escalade IQ is even more expensive and highly inefficient. At the present time, General Motors loses money on each of its EVs, and they also appear to be cutting back on the Chevy Bolt, their top-selling vehicle, which they announced that they were halting to make, and then decided to bring back. They're competing directly against Tesla in that segment, and soon others, but their offering is also subpar. Focusing perhaps on the customer experience, on software, on perfecting vehicles they already know how to make might be a better long-term strategy than dumping a slew of new car models onto the market, which they will eventually have trouble producing, thus leading to potentially giving up large swaths of their massive market share. As a matter of fact, CEO Mary Barra has already admitted just days ago of this happening. General Motors is struggling to build the Cadillac Lyriq. Last year, they forecasted 25,000 Lyriqs to be built in 2023, but so far, they're only just hitting 2,400 in the first half of the year. When that happens, you typically don't exacerbate the mess by adding even more different models and confuse your employees, adding overhead and extra work and things to keep track of. A vehicle needs to be stable, or at least being able to produce them at the desired volume before moving on to the next one. They're also adding complex features like the massive panoramic screen into the new Cadillac Escalade IQ, which looks cool but may be harder to produce and write good software for. Therefore, GM's current strategy appears like a recipe for disaster. So do you think General Motors will be successful at executing its Cadillac EV strategy, or are they only making their existing array of challenges even worse? Don't forget to watch my last video on Tesla disrupting the oil and gas space. Please hit the like button and subscribe, we would really appreciate that. And a huge shout out to all of our patrons that help to support our channel. Your support helps us to continue to make great content. Thank you guys so much for watching.